there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome, thanks for joining me in today's video. We're going to talk about something that is always a little bit more of a challenge for me to truly explain, and so I'm going to do my best to really demonstrate it as opposed to doing a whole lot of explaining. But what this boils down to is, well, the thing that I say all the time. Rhythm is the most important thing. A lot of times when people are playing solos, when my students are playing solos, the rhythm tends to go out the window. It's not important that you have fancy rhythm. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be weird. It doesn't have to be off. It doesn't have to be bizarre or anything like that. It needs variety. And so what I want to show you today is a very basic, very simple lick. This is one admittedly stolen from a YouTube video. I literally just kind of went on YouTube and typed, blues guitar lick and just sort of picked a random, very simple idea, okay, from just that I randomly saw. And it's probably not exact even at that, but it's a very simple idea. And what I want to show you is that with some very simple tweaks to the rhythm, you can take what's going to start as a very blocky, really not very useful lick, turns into something extremely cool with just a couple of simple things. And then, of course, once you've done those couple of simple things, I'll talk to you about how you can do more and where you can go from there. But I really want to show you how syncopation in particular and really just sort of adding a couple of little things to the rhythm makes such a huge difference. Okay, so let me show you the basic version of this lick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that probably sounds reasonable. My guess is that you've heard similar things to that in your life and hopefully even played them. So we're going to start with, it's all A minor, box 1, the thing we tend to play a lot, particularly for demonstration. But it's easy to change key. Right, we just move down, or move up. So we're going to do 7th fret bends up on the 3rd string. Then we grab the 5th fret on the 2nd string, 5th fret on the 1st string, 8, 5 on the 2nd string, bend up and release on the 3rd string with the 7th fret, 5 on the 3rd string, 5th fret, and then we're going to bend that 7th fret back up. Okay, now I'm doing this in a straight feel. So it's not, that would be a swing feel where, right, a straight feel. You could obviously change this. I messed that up. 2, 3, 4. Right, you could play it in a swing feel, but for my purposes, I'm not going to. Now, this is not a lick that I would ever use, okay? First of all, it starts right on beat 1, which regardless of your take on rhythm and changing it and making variety and doing all that different stuff, starting on beat 1 just tends to sound, I call it blocky. I really don't know what else to call it. It just is kind of heavy. It doesn't have the bounce. It doesn't have the movement that's starting after beat 1, oftentimes on an off beat will do. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play this. I'm going to just put a little something here in my looper. I'm just going to put a nice A chord groove. Okay, so notice that if I play this as it's written, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's kind of okay, but not amazing by any stretch. If I add more to that blues, we'll just kind of finish it out. And I always like to demonstrate this just so that you'll know, right? This is a great way to practice. You got to get to where you can play a blues. I'm kind of doing the keep your hands to yourself rhythm. Okay, so there we go. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So that's just, it works. But man, it's just, I don't know, it's just not fun. It just doesn't have, there's really just not a lot of movement there to me. There's just not a lot going on. So let's take a look if I make a couple of very small modifications. Now the first thing I hope you'll see, I'm not starting on beat 1 anymore. And if nothing else, that will actually make it sound better. However, by what you might also notice is the very first note, and that's the only one that I've changed. Instead of having it be just an 8th note by itself, I've extended it. I've made it longer. Okay, so instead of just going 1 and 2 for those first few notes, I'm going 1 and 2 and 3. So I'm extending out that bend note a little bit just to add a little bit more to it, right? And so it's a very subtle change, literally 1 note. Everything else I haven't changed. Now, obviously it sits a little bit later in the bar, and that will change how it sounds, but I haven't changed anything as far as my fingers are concerned. So if I turn on my looper again, 3, 4, or 1. What I hope you can hear is that it sounds a little bit more interesting now. To me and my ear, that sounds much, much better. If I compare the two, right, notice that I have something like, let's go back to the simple one, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll... Now, interestingly enough, by virtue of simply going back and forth between those two different options, you're probably going to think that each one of them sounds better, right, than if I do the same thing over and over. The idea, or any time we change things up and we add variety, it's going to sound better. But hopefully you can hear that the one that starts right on beat 1 and everything is the same. It's all 8th notes all the way through. When you play that one, hopefully you can hear that it really doesn't have nearly the character that the second one has, where I'm starting halfway through a beat, I'm letting that first note ring out a little bit. So I've created a situation where at least in one spot, there's not just an 8th note. It's 2 8th notes tied together, equivalent to a quarter note. What if I make one more change? Now I have something like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So there's another spot where I've just held a note. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Now that's just one more note. I just changed one more note. But now I'm starting a little bit later in the bar, and I have 2 spots within that lick where I've extended things out. I've created a little bit of syncopation, which means starting on an offbeat and not using the downbeat. Those kinds of things are very, very powerful. And I only need a couple of them, and it'll go a really long way. Let's take a listen to it. With my looper, 2, 3, 4. Now listen to that against the basic version. right, so hopefully you can hear what a phenomenal difference that makes in the sound of your playing. We all make this kind of same mistake where, because we practice, we tend to practice the scale in eighth notes, in triplets, the same all the time. So we get comfortable in that one particular rhythm figure. We can't get out of it. We get in that rut. It's hard to get out of it. So you have to. You simply have to, right? If you think about all your favorite guitar players, whether it's Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, B.B. King, Albert King, I don't care. Take your pick. They all, by and large, use the pentatonic scale. So if you are playing the same notes as them, why don't you sound just like them? And why don't they all sound like each other? It's the rhythm. It's the rhythm. It's always the rhythm. The rhythm makes the difference. If you want to have your own unique sound and voice, it's in how you place the notes, not nearly so much the notes that you choose, because we're all choosing from the same group of 5. So you gotta place them correctly. So if I can get you to put the rhythm at the forefront of your mind, you're gonna be on the right track to sounding like you truly want to sound. Okay, now I do have, of course, rhythm figures for blues lead guitar that will walk you through. It's a heck of a process. It's a lot of fun to do. I actually have a lot of students that have said this is like the most fun course to do. So I will leave a link near this video in case you want to check that out. And I hope you will, because it really does make that much of a difference. This is something I'm very passionate about, you can probably tell. So, as always, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. If you have guitar playing friends that you think would benefit from this video, I hope you will share it with them, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.